Imagine if I told you that one simple meal, something you could eat today without fancy supplements or extreme diets, could dramatically lower your risk of a heart attack and stroke. Not 5 meals. Not a complicated plan. Just one powerful combination of foods that doctors, nutrition researchers, and even cardiologists quietly agree on. And the crazy part is, most people either overlook it or eat it completely wrong. So stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what this meal is, why it works, and how it protects your heart and brain every single day. Heart attacks and strokes don't usually come out of nowhere. They build silently over years through inflammation, clogged arteries, high blood pressure, and unstable blood sugar. What you eat either feeds that process or fights it. And the meal I'm about to share fights it on every level. It reduces bad cholesterol, stabilizes blood sugar, calms inflammation, improves blood vessel flexibility, and even helps prevent dangerous blood clots. That's why I call it the #1 meal for heart and stroke prevention. So let me paint the picture. This meal starts with fatty fish like salmon, sardines, or mackerel. These aren't just protein sources. They're packed with omega-3 fatty acids, which are some of the most powerful heart-protective nutrients on the planet. Omega-3s lower triglycerides, reduce inflammation inside your arteries, and help keep your blood from becoming too sticky. Sticky blood is one of the hidden triggers behind strokes. When blood flows smoothly, your heart doesn't have to work as hard, and your brain stays protected. But fish alone isn't the magic. What turns this into the best meal is what you pair it with. Add a generous serving of leafy green vegetables like spinach, kale, or arugula. These greens are loaded with nitrates that help your blood vessels relax and widen. That directly lowers blood pressure, one of the biggest risk factors for both heart attacks and strokes. Greens are also rich in magnesium and potassium, which support healthy heart rhythms and prevent dangerous spikes in blood pressure. Now here's where most people miss out. This meal must include healthy fats, especially extra virgin olive oil. And I don't mean a light drizzle. Olive oil is full of polyphenol, powerful antioxidants that protect your arteries from oxidative damage. Think of them like a shield for your blood vessels. These compounds reduce inflammation, improve cholesterol balance, and help prevent plaque from rupturing, which is what actually causes most heart attacks. It's not just the blockage, it's the sudden rupture that stops blood flow. To complete the meal, add a portion of fiber-rich carbohydrates like lentils, chickpeas, quinoa, or beans. Fiber is essential for heart health because it binds to excess cholesterol and removes it from your body. It also keeps your blood sugar stable, preventing insulin spikes that damage blood vessels over time. Stable blood sugar means less inflammation and less stress on your heart and brain. And let me say this clearly. This meal works best when it replaces processed foods, not when it's added on top of a poor diet. You can't eat fried food all day and expect one healthy dinner to cancel it out. Consistency is what saves lives. People who eat meals like this regularly have lower rates of cardiovascular disease, better cholesterol profiles, and reduced risk of stroke as they age. What I love about this meal is that it's simple and realistic. You're not starving. You're not counting calories obsessively. You're eating real food that your body recognizes and knows how to use. And it tastes good. A piece of grilled salmon with olive oil, a big plate of greens, and a side of lentils or beans is satisfying and nourishing. Your body doesn't feel stressed after it. Your heart feels supported. Another powerful benefit is how this meal reduces chronic inflammation. Inflammation is like a slow fire inside your arteries. Over time, it weakens the vessel walls and makes plaque unstable. Omega-3s, olive oil polyphenol, and antioxidants from greens all work together to put that fire out. That's one reason people who follow Mediterranean-style meals have some of the lowest heart disease rates in the world. And here's something most people don't realize. This meal also protects your brain. Strokes are often caused by the same processes that cause heart attacks: narrowed arteries, clots, and inflammation. Omega-3s support brain cell membranes, improve blood flow to the brain, and reduce the risk of clot formation. When you protect your heart, you protect your mind too. If you're already dealing with high blood pressure, high cholesterol, or a family history of heart disease, this meal isn't optional. It's a tool. And if you're young and think heart attacks only happen later in life, this is your insurance policy. Damage starts decades before symptoms show up. So the next time you're wondering what to eat, remember this. A meal built around fatty fish, leafy greens, olive oil, and fiber-rich whole foods is one of the strongest defenses you have against heart attacks and strokes. Food isn't just fuel. It's information. And this meal sends your body a message of protection, balance, and long-term health. If this helped you, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more simple, science-backed ways to protect your health. Your heart works for you every second of your life. The least we can do is feed it right. When people hear that a single meal can lower the risk of a heart attack and stroke, the first reaction is usually disbelief, because we've been conditioned to think health only comes from complicated plans, long lists of restrictions, and years of struggle. But the truth is that the body responds powerfully to what it is repeatedly given, and when one meal contains the right balance of nutrients, it can shift the entire internal environment toward healing and protection. This isn't about a miracle food or a quick fix. It's about how one thoughtfully built meal can influence inflammation, cholesterol behavior, blood pressure, blood sugar, and blood flow all at the same time, which are the exact systems involved in heart attacks and strokes. Every time you eat, you are either pushing your body closer to disease or pulling it back toward balance, and a single well-constructed meal, eaten consistently, can become a daily protective habit that compounds over time. Heart attacks and strokes don't happen because of one bad day of eating. They happen because the body has been exposed to years of small insults that slowly damage blood vessels and overload the heart. Chronic inflammation irritates artery walls, unstable blood sugar damages delicate vessels, excess LDL cholesterol embeds itself where it doesn't belong, and high blood pressure constantly pounds the circulatory system. A meal designed to prevent these outcomes works like a multi-tool, addressing several risk factors at once instead of targeting just one. This is why focusing on one powerful meal is so effective, because it simplifies decision-making while delivering a wide range of benefits every time it's eaten. Consistency is where the real power lies. When the same protective meal shows up on your plate day after day or several times a week, the body starts adapting to that healthier input. Cholesterol profiles begin to improve, inflammation markers go down, insulin sensitivity increases, and blood vessels regain some of their flexibility. These changes don't feel dramatic in the moment, but they quietly lower the odds of a life-altering event years down the road. People often underestimate how much influence one repeated habit can have, especially when it's tied to something as fundamental as eating. Another reason this approach works so well is because it reduces decision fatigue. Instead of constantly wondering what's healthy, what's allowed, or what's off-limits, you anchor your day around one reliable, heart-protective meal. That stability alone lowers stress, which is another overlooked contributor to cardiovascular disease. Stress hormones raise blood pressure and promote inflammation, so even the mental relief of knowing you're making a good choice can have physical benefits. Health isn't just biochemical, it's behavioral, and simple routines are easier to maintain long-term. This meal also helps crowd out harmful foods naturally. When you're well-fed with nutrient-dense ingredients, cravings for highly processed, sugary, or fried foods often decrease. Your body becomes more sensitive to fullness signals, blood sugar stays more stable, and the roller coaster of energy crashes becomes less intense. Over time, this reduces the likelihood of overeating foods that directly increase heart attack and stroke risk. It's not about willpower, it's about nourishment creating balance. One of the most important aspects of this meal is that it supports the lining of your blood vessels, known as the endothelium. This thin layer plays a huge role in regulating blood flow and preventing clots. When it's damaged by poor diet and chronic inflammation, arteries become stiff and vulnerable. A nutrient-rich meal repeatedly delivers antioxidants, healthy fats, and minerals that help repair and protect this lining, improving circulation and lowering the chance of blockages forming or breaking loose. There's also a powerful ripple effect throughout the body. Improved circulation means organs receive more oxygen and nutrients. The heart doesn't have to work as hard, reducing wear and tear over time. The brain benefits from steadier blood flow, lowering stroke risk and supporting cognitive health. Even the kidneys and liver experience less strain when blood pressure and blood sugar are under control. One meal might seem small, but the systems it influences are vast and interconnected. What makes this especially important is that many people already have silent risk factors without realizing it. You can feel fine and still have arterial plaque forming, blood pressure creeping upward, or insulin resistance developing. A consistent protective meal acts like preventative maintenance, addressing problems before they become symptoms. This proactive approach is far more effective than waiting until medication becomes necessary, although even for those already on medication, the right meal can enhance outcomes and sometimes reduce the need for higher doses. Culturally, this way of eating aligns with patterns seen in populations with low rates of heart disease and stroke. These groups don't rely on supplements or extreme restrictions. They rely on simple, whole meals repeated over decades. Their longevity isn't the result of perfection, but of steady habits that support the body instead of overwhelming it. That's an important reminder that health doesn't require extremes. It requires alignment. This approach also respects enjoyment, which matters more than people admit. A meal that tastes good is far more likely to be eaten consistently than one that feels like punishment. Pleasure reduces stress hormones, improves digestion, and makes healthy eating sustainable. When people enjoy what they eat, they stick with it, and sticking with it is what creates protection over time. Even small improvements add up. Lowering triglycerides slightly, reducing blood pressure by a few points, or improving cholesterol ratios incrementally can significantly reduce cardiovascular risk when maintained over years. A single meal that delivers these benefits repeatedly becomes a long-term investment in health rather than a temporary intervention. It's not about chasing perfection, it's about choosing something that quietly works in your favor day after day. This is why focusing on one powerful meal is such a smart strategy. It simplifies health, builds consistency, supports multiple systems at once, and fits into real life without creating burnout. When people stop trying to overhaul everything at once and instead commit to one deeply nourishing meal, the body responds with gradual but meaningful changes that lower the risk of heart attack and stroke while supporting overall vitality and resilience as time goes on and the habit becomes part of daily life and the body continues responding to what it is consistently given. Heart attacks and strokes rarely happen suddenly without warning, even though they may feel that way when they strike. In reality, they are the result of a slow, silent process that unfolds over many years, sometimes decades, inside the body. This process often goes unnoticed because it doesn't always cause pain or obvious symptoms at first, which is why so many people are shocked when they or someone they love experiences a cardiovascular event. The foundation of this problem is built on chronic inflammation, rising blood pressure, unstable blood sugar, and the gradual clogging and weakening of arteries, all working together behind the scenes long before any diagnosis is made. Inflammation is one of the earliest and most dangerous contributors in this chain reaction. When the body is exposed to poor dietary habits, chronic stress, lack of sleep, smoking, or environmental toxins, the immune system stays slightly activated all the time. This low-grade inflammation damages the inner lining of blood vessels, making them rough and vulnerable. Once that lining is compromised, cholesterol particles are more likely to stick to it, beginning the formation of plaque. This doesn't happen overnight, but once it starts, it tends to accelerate if the underlying causes aren't addressed as plaque builds up inside the arteries. The body responds by sending more inflammatory signals to the area, which ironically makes the situation worse. Over time, arteries become narrower and stiffer, reducing their ability to expand and contract with each heartbeat. This stiffness forces the heart to pump harder to move blood through the body, which leads directly to higher blood pressure. High blood pressure isn't just a number on a monitor. It represents constant mechanical stress on the arteries, similar to water flowing through a hose at too high a pressure for years on end. Unstable blood sugar adds another layer of damage. When blood sugar spikes frequently due to high intake of refined carbohydrates and sugars, insulin levels also rise repeatedly. Over time, cells become less responsive to insulin, a condition known as insulin resistance. This state causes even more sugar to remain in the bloodstream, where it can damage blood vessels through a process called glycation. Glycation stiffens arteries, disrupts normal blood flow, and increases inflammation, creating the perfect environment for cardiovascular disease to progress quietly. Cholesterol itself is often misunderstood in this process. It's not simply the presence of cholesterol that causes heart attacks and strokes, but how it behaves in an inflamed environment. LDL cholesterol becomes especially dangerous when it is oxidized, which happens more readily in the presence of chronic inflammation and high blood sugar. Oxidized LDL is far more likely to embed itself in artery walls and contribute to plaque formation. Over time, these plaques can grow large enough to restrict blood flow or become unstable and rupture. The rupture of plaque is one of the most common triggers of heart attacks and strokes. When a plaque breaks open, the body treats it like an injury and forms a blood clot to seal it. If that clot blocks blood flow to the heart, a heart attack occurs. If it blocks blood flow to the brain, a stroke occurs. This is why someone can feel relatively fine and then suddenly experience a life-threatening event, because the real danger was developing silently long before the final moment. Another critical factor is blood viscosity, or how thick and sticky the blood becomes over time. Dehydration, inflammation, high triglycerides, and poor fat balance in the diet can all make blood more prone to clotting. Thick blood flows less efficiently and increases the likelihood of clots forming in already narrowed arteries. This further elevates the risk of both heart attacks and strokes without producing obvious warning signs in everyday life. Lifestyle factors intensify this silent progression. Chronic stress keeps cortisol levels elevated, which raises blood pressure and blood sugar while promoting fat storage around the abdomen, a known risk factor for cardiovascular disease. Lack of physical activity reduces the body's ability to regulate blood sugar and cholesterol efficiently. Poor sleep disrupts hormone balance and increases inflammatory markers. Each of these factors alone may seem manageable, but together they create a compounding effect that accelerates vascular damage year after year. What makes this process especially dangerous is that the body is very good at adapting, even to unhealthy conditions. Blood pressure can rise gradually without noticeable symptoms. Arteries can narrow slowly enough that the body compensates by rerouting blood flow. Insulin resistance can worsen for years before blood sugar reaches diabetic levels. This adaptability creates a false sense of security, making people believe they are healthy simply because they don't feel sick, while damage continues quietly beneath the surface. Genetics can influence how quickly this process unfolds, but they are rarely the sole cause. Family history may increase susceptibility, but lifestyle and dietary choices often determine whether those genes are expressed or kept in check. This is empowering because it means the progression toward heart attack and stroke is not inevitable for most people. The same systems that are slowly damaged by poor habits can also be supported and repaired through better ones when intervention happens early enough. Understanding that heart attacks and strokes are the final chapter of a long story changes how we approach prevention. Instead of focusing only on emergency treatment or late-stage medication, attention shifts to daily habits that influence inflammation, blood pressure, blood sugar, and arterial health long before a crisis occurs. Prevention becomes less about fear and more about consistency, recognizing that small choices repeated over time can either fuel silent damage or quietly build resilience in the cardiovascular system. When people grasp that these events are not random but the result of predictable biological processes, it opens the door to meaningful change. It becomes clear that the goal is not just avoiding a single catastrophic moment, but maintaining an internal environment where arteries remain flexible, blood flows smoothly, inflammation stays low, and the heart and brain are supported every day. This perspective transforms heart health from a distant concern into a daily practice rooted in awareness, nourishment, and long-term care for the body as it moves through life without the sudden shock of preventable disease. Fatty fish like salmon, sardines, and mackerel play a unique and powerful role in protecting the heart and brain because they are one of the richest natural sources of omega-3 fatty acids, nutrients that the human body cannot produce on its own in sufficient amounts. These fats are not just another dietary component. They are structural and functional elements that directly influence how cells behave, how blood flows, and how inflammation is regulated throughout the body. When omega-3 intake is consistently low, the body becomes more prone to inflammatory responses, unstable blood lipids, and impaired vascular function, all of which increase the risk of heart attacks and strokes over time. Omega-3 fatty acids, particularly EPA and DHA found in fatty fish, work at the cellular level to reduce inflammation in a way that few other nutrients can. Chronic inflammation inside the arteries is one of the primary drivers of plaque buildup and instability. Omega-3s help shift the body away from producing inflammatory signaling molecules and toward producing anti-inflammatory ones. This change doesn't shut down the immune system, but rather balances it, preventing the constant low-grade inflammation that slowly damages blood vessels and accelerates cardiovascular disease. Another critical benefit of omega-3s is their effect on triglycerides, a type of fat in the blood that is strongly linked to heart disease risk. High triglyceride levels make blood thicker and more prone to clotting, increasing the likelihood of blocked arteries. Omega-3s have been consistently shown to lower triglyceride levels by reducing how much fat the liver produces and releases into the bloodstream. Lower triglycerides means smoother blood flow, less strain on the heart, and a reduced chance of clot formation that could lead to a heart attack or stroke. Blood clot prevention is one of the most underappreciated roles of omega-3 fatty acids. These fats help reduce platelet aggregation, which is the tendency of blood cells to clump together and form clots. While clotting is essential for healing injuries, excessive clot formation inside arteries is dangerous. Omega-3s gently thin the blood without the harsh side effects of medication, making clots less likely to form where they don't belong. This is especially important for stroke prevention, as many strokes are caused by clots blocking blood flow to the brain. Omega-3s also improve the flexibility and function of blood vessels. Healthy arteries are elastic, expanding and contracting with each heartbeat to accommodate changes in blood flow. Inflammation, high blood sugar, and oxidative stress cause arteries to stiffen over time, raising blood pressure and increasing cardiovascular strain. Omega-3 fatty acids become part of cell membranes in blood vessels, improving their fluidity and responsiveness. This helps lower blood pressure naturally and reduces the workload placed on the heart during everyday activities. Cholesterol behavior is another area where fatty fish make a meaningful difference. Omega-3s do not necessarily lower LDL cholesterol dramatically, but they change its quality. LDL particles become less likely to oxidize, which is the form most responsible for arterial damage. Omega-3s also help increase HDL cholesterol, which plays a role in transporting excess cholesterol away from arteries and back to the liver for removal. This improved balance contributes to a healthier lipid profile that supports long-term cardiovascular protection. Beyond the heart, omega-3s have a profound impact on brain health, which is closely linked to stroke risk. DHA is a major structural component of brain cell membranes, influencing communication between neurons and overall brain resilience. Adequate omega-3 intake supports healthy blood flow to the brain, reduces inflammation in cerebral vessels, and helps maintain the integrity of the blood-brain barrier. These effects collectively lower the risk of ischemic strokes and support cognitive function as people age. What makes fatty fish especially valuable is that they deliver omega-3s in a highly bioavailable form. Plant-based omega-3s, such as ALA from flax seeds or walnuts, must be converted into EPA and DHA in the body, a process that is inefficient for many people. Fatty fish provide EPA and DHA directly, ensuring the body can immediately use them for anti-inflammatory and cardiovascular functions. This efficiency is one reason populations that consume fish regularly tend to have lower rates of heart disease and stroke. The frequency of consumption matters just as much as the source. Eating fatty fish once in a while is helpful, but consistent intake is what produces lasting changes in blood chemistry and vessel health. When omega-3s are regularly incorporated into meals, they become part of cell membranes throughout the body, influencing inflammation, clotting, and circulation on a daily basis. This cumulative effect is what turns fatty fish from a healthy food into a powerful preventative tool. Preparation methods also influence the benefits. Grilling, baking, or lightly pan-cooking fatty fish preserves omega-3 content, while deep frying can damage these delicate fats and introduce harmful compounds. Pairing fish with antioxidant-rich foods further protects omega-3s from oxidation in the body, allowing them to exert their full protective effects. When prepared simply and eaten as part of a balanced meal, fatty fish deliver maximum cardiovascular support without unnecessary risks. For individuals with a family history of heart disease or existing risk factors like high blood pressure or elevated triglycerides, fatty fish can be especially impactful. Omega-3s work alongside the body's natural regulatory systems, complementing lifestyle changes and, when necessary, medical treatments. They do not replace medical care, but they strengthen the body's defenses, often improving outcomes and supporting overall cardiovascular resilience. The beauty of fatty fish lies in how naturally they integrate into everyday eating patterns. They are not exotic supplements or extreme interventions, but real foods that have nourished human populations for generations. Their benefits extend beyond numbers on a lab report, influencing how people feel, how their bodies respond to stress, and how well their cardiovascular systems age over time. When fatty fish become a regular part of the diet, omega-3 levels rise steadily, inflammation decreases, blood flows more freely, and the internal environment shifts toward protection rather than damage. Over months and years, these changes significantly lower the likelihood that a plaque will rupture, a clot will form, or a vital artery will become blocked, making fatty fish one of the most reliable and science-supported foods for preventing heart attacks and strokes while supporting long-term health and vitality as the body continues adapting to what it is consistently given without needing dramatic interventions or drastic dietary rules and allowing the heart and brain to function in a state of balance and support that quietly builds protection day after day as part of a sustainable and nourishing way of eating. Omega-3 fatty acids play a crucial role in keeping blood flowing smoothly through the body, and this single function alone has enormous implications for heart health and stroke prevention. Blood is meant to move freely and efficiently, delivering oxygen and nutrients to every tissue without resistance. When blood flow becomes sluggish, thick, or irregular, the heart must work harder to push it through the arteries, and that extra strain gradually wears the heart down. Omega-3s directly influence the properties of blood itself, helping maintain a consistency that supports effortless circulation rather than resistance and blockage. One of the key ways omega-3s support smooth blood flow is by reducing inflammation inside blood vessels. Inflammation causes the inner lining of arteries to become irritated and swollen, narrowing the space through which blood can travel. Even small amounts of narrowing can significantly affect flow, especially in smaller vessels that supply the brain. Omega-3s calm this inflammatory response, allowing the vessel walls to relax and remain open, which reduces resistance and promotes steady circulation throughout the body. Omega-3s also affect the behavior of platelets, the blood cells responsible for clotting. Platelets are essential for preventing excessive bleeding when injuries occur, but when they become overly active, they can clump together inside arteries and form clots where they are not needed. These clots can partially or completely block blood flow, leading to heart attacks or strokes. Omega-3 fatty acids reduce excessive platelet aggregation, making platelets less likely to stick together unnecessarily. This creates a safer balance where blood can clot when needed but remains fluid and mobile under normal conditions. Blood viscosity, often described as how thick or sticky the blood is another major factor in circulation. Thicker blood moves more slowly and increases friction against artery walls, which raises blood pressure and forces the heart to pump harder. Omega-3s help lower triglyceride levels and improve lipid balance, which directly reduces blood thickness. Thinner blood flows more easily, reducing the workload on the heart and lowering the risk that a clot will form in a narrowed artery. The heart is a muscle, and like any muscle, it responds to workload. When blood flow is smooth and resistance is low, the heart can pump efficiently without strain. When blood flow is impaired, the heart must contract more forcefully and more frequently to maintain circulation. Over time, this increased workload can lead to thickening of the heart muscle, reduced pumping efficiency, and a higher risk of heart failure. By improving blood flow and reducing resistance, omega-3s help preserve the heart's efficiency and protect it from chronic overexertion. Blood pressure is closely tied to how easily blood moves through the arteries. When vessels are stiff or inflamed and blood is thick, pressure rises. Omega-3s help improve arterial flexibility by becoming part of cell membranes in the vessel walls. This increased flexibility allows arteries to expand and contract with each heartbeat, accommodating changes in blood flow without dramatic increases in pressure. Lower blood pressure reduces stress on both the heart and the delicate vessels in the brain, significantly lowering stroke risk. Strokes often occur when blood flow to the brain is suddenly interrupted, usually by a clot. Because the brain relies on a constant supply of oxygen, even brief disruptions can cause serious damage. Omega-3s reduce the likelihood of clot formation and support healthy blood flow to cerebral vessels, making sudden blockages less likely. They also help protect the endothelium, the thin lining inside blood vessels, which plays a critical role in regulating blood flow and preventing clot development. Another important aspect of smooth blood flow is how red blood cells behave. Omega-3 fatty acids improve the flexibility of red blood cell membranes, allowing them to bend and pass easily through tiny capillaries. This is especially important in the brain, where blood vessels are extremely small and sensitive to blockages. Flexible red blood cells improve oxygen delivery and reduce the risk of microvascular damage that can contribute to cognitive decline and small, often unnoticed strokes over time. Omega-3s also influence heart rhythm, which indirectly affects circulation. Irregular heart rhythms can cause blood to pool in certain areas of the heart, increasing the risk of clot formation that can travel to the brain and cause a stroke. Omega-3s help stabilize electrical signaling in heart cells, supporting a steady and coordinated heartbeat. A stable rhythm promotes consistent blood flow and reduces the chance of dangerous clots forming due to stagnant blood. The benefits of omega-3s on blood flow are cumulative rather than immediate. When these fats are consumed consistently, they are incorporated into cell membranes throughout the body, including those of blood vessels, platelets, and blood cells. Over time, this changes how these cells function and interact, creating an internal environment that favors smooth circulation and cardiovascular stability. This gradual adaptation is one reason omega-3s are so effective as a long-term preventative strategy rather than a short-term fix. Poor blood flow often goes unnoticed until it causes a serious problem. People may not feel thickened blood, increased clotting tendency, or reduced vessel flexibility until a heart attack or stroke occurs. Omega-3s work quietly in the background, addressing these issues before they become emergencies. This makes them especially valuable for prevention, as they reduce risk without relying on dramatic interventions or noticeable side effects. As people age, blood vessels naturally lose some elasticity, and blood composition can change in ways that increase cardiovascular risk. Omega-3s help slow these age-related changes by supporting vascular health and maintaining balanced blood properties. This is particularly important for older adults, who face a higher risk of stroke due to cumulative vascular damage and changes in blood flow dynamics. When blood flows smoothly, every organ benefits. The brain receives consistent oxygen, the heart works efficiently, and tissues are nourished without strain. Omega-3s contribute to this harmony by addressing multiple factors that influence circulation at once, including inflammation, clotting, lipid balance, vessel flexibility, and cellular function. This multifaceted support is what makes omega-3s so powerful in reducing both heart strain and stroke risk. Rather than targeting a single symptom, omega-3 fatty acids improve the underlying conditions that determine how blood moves through the body. By promoting fluid circulation and reducing resistance, they create a protective environment where the heart and brain are less likely to be overwhelmed by sudden blockages or chronic stress. Over time, this steady support translates into a significantly lower likelihood of life-threatening cardiovascular events and a greater chance of maintaining vitality and resilience as the body continues to rely on the quality of blood flow to sustain every moment of life. Leafy green vegetables like spinach, kale, arugula, Swiss chard, and romaine play a foundational role in supporting healthy blood pressure, and their impact goes far beyond what most people realize. Blood pressure is not just about how hard the heart pumps. It's about how flexible, relaxed, and responsive the blood vessels are as blood moves through them. When vessels are stiff or narrowed, pressure rises, even if the heart itself is relatively healthy. Leafy greens directly influence the structure and function of blood vessels, helping them stay open, relaxed, and resilient in a way that naturally supports balanced blood pressure over time. One of the most powerful features of leafy greens is their high nitrate content. When you eat nitrates from vegetables, the body converts them into nitric oxide, a molecule that signals blood vessels to relax and widen. This process, known as vasodilation, allows blood to flow more easily with less resistance. When vessels are dilated, the heart does not need to generate as much force to push blood forward, which directly lowers blood pressure. Unlike medications that force this effect, nitric oxide from greens works in harmony with the body's own regulatory systems. As nitric oxide availability increases, the inner lining of blood vessels, called the endothelium, becomes healthier and more responsive. A well-functioning endothelium is essential for regulating blood flow, preventing excessive clotting and reducing inflammation. When this lining is damaged by poor diet, high blood sugar, or chronic inflammation, blood vessels lose their ability to relax properly. Leafy greens help repair and protect this lining, restoring its natural ability to adjust blood flow based on the body's needs. Potassium is another key nutrient abundant in leafy greens, and it plays a critical role in blood pressure control. Potassium helps balance the effects of sodium in the body. While sodium tends to increase fluid retention and raise blood pressure, potassium encourages the kidneys to excrete excess sodium and relax blood vessel walls. Many modern diets are high in sodium and low in potassium, creating a perfect storm for hypertension. Leafy greens help restore this balance, allowing the body to regulate fluid levels and vascular tone more effectively. Magnesium, also plentiful in leafy greens, further supports blood pressure by relaxing smooth muscle tissue in blood vessel walls. Blood vessels are surrounded by muscle fibers that contract and relax to regulate diameter. When magnesium levels are low, these muscles are more likely to remain tense, leading to constricted vessels and elevated pressure. Adequate magnesium intake helps these muscles relax, promoting better circulation and reducing vascular resistance without forcing the system into unnatural states. Together, nitrates, potassium, and magnesium create a powerful synergy. Nitrates improve signaling for vessel relaxation. Potassium manages fluid balance and counteracts sodium, and magnesium supports muscle relaxation and nerve signaling. This combination addresses blood pressure from multiple angles at once, which is why leafy greens are so effective as a natural support rather than a single target solution. The body thrives on this kind of integrated nourishment. Leafy greens also contribute to blood pressure control by reducing oxidative stress. They are rich in antioxidants like vitamin C, beta-carotene, and various polyphenols that neutralize free radicals. Oxidative stress damages blood vessels and interferes with nitric oxide signaling, making it harder for vessels to relax. By reducing oxidative damage, greens preserve the availability and effectiveness of nitric oxide, helping maintain healthy vascular function over time. Fiber in leafy greens plays a quieter, but still important role. Fiber helps regulate blood sugar and cholesterol levels, both of which influence blood pressure indirectly. High blood sugar damages blood vessels and increases inflammation, while unhealthy cholesterol contributes to arterial stiffness. By improving metabolic health, fiber-rich greens reduce the underlying stressors that cause blood pressure to rise gradually over the years. Inflammation is another hidden driver of high blood pressure, and leafy greens help calm it at the source. Chronic inflammation causes blood vessels to become stiff and less responsive, increasing resistance to blood flow. The anti-inflammatory compounds in greens help lower inflammatory markers, allowing vessels to regain flexibility. This is especially important for people who already have elevated blood pressure, as inflammation often keeps it from returning to normal, even with medication. Regular consumption of leafy greens also supports the gut microbiome, which has an unexpected but significant influence on blood pressure. Beneficial gut bacteria help produce short-chain fatty acids that regulate inflammation and vascular function. Fiber and plant compounds in greens feed these bacteria, improving gut health and indirectly supporting cardiovascular regulation. A healthier gut environment contributes to better blood pressure control throughout the body. Another advantage of leafy greens is their low calorie density combined with high nutrient content. Maintaining a healthy body weight is one of the most effective ways to reduce blood pressure, and greens make it easier to feel full and nourished without excess calories. When weight is reduced or stabilized, pressure on the heart and blood vessels decreases, further supporting healthy circulation. What makes leafy greens especially valuable is how quickly the body responds to them. Studies have shown improvements in blood vessel function and blood pressure within hours to days of increased nitrate-rich vegetable intake. While long-term consistency is key for lasting benefits, even short-term changes can improve vascular responsiveness, demonstrating how directly these foods influence blood flow dynamics. As people age, blood vessels naturally lose elasticity, which contributes to rising blood pressure over time. Leafy greens help slow this process by supporting collagen structure, reducing oxidative damage, and maintaining nitric oxide production. This preservation of vascular youthfulness is one reason diets rich in vegetables are consistently associated with lower rates of hypertension and cardiovascular disease across populations. For individuals already taking blood pressure medication, leafy greens can still play a supportive role. They do not replace medical treatment, but they enhance the body's ability to regulate pressure naturally, sometimes allowing for better control with lower doses over time under medical supervision. Their effects are gentle, cumulative, and aligned with the body's physiology rather than forcing rapid changes. The simplicity of leafy greens is part of their power. They do not require complex preparation or strict rules to be effective. Whether eaten raw, lightly cooked, blended, or incorporated into meals, they consistently deliver nutrients that support blood vessel health. This ease of use makes them sustainable, which is essential for long-term blood pressure management. When leafy greens become a regular part of the diet, the body begins to operate in a state of greater vascular ease. Blood flows with less resistance, the heart works more efficiently, and pressure within the arteries remains more stable throughout the day. Over months and years, this steady support significantly lowers the risk of heart attacks and strokes by addressing one of their most critical underlying drivers in a way that feels natural, nourishing, and deeply aligned with how the body is designed to function as it continues adapting to the quality of nutrients it receives day after day. Extra virgin olive oil plays a remarkably protective role in cardiovascular health, largely because of its rich concentration of polyphenol, which are powerful antioxidant and anti-inflammatory compounds that directly protect the arteries from damage. While many people think of olive oil simply as a fat or a cooking ingredient, its true value lies in how it communicates with the body at a cellular and molecular level. When consumed regularly, extra virgin olive oil does far more than provide calories. It actively helps preserve the structure, flexibility, and integrity of blood vessels that keep the heart and brain supplied with oxygen-rich blood. Arteries are constantly exposed to stress from blood pressure, blood sugar fluctuations, and circulating fats. Over time, this stress leads to oxidative damage, a process where unstable molecules called free radicals attack the delicate lining of blood vessels. This damage makes arteries more vulnerable to inflammation and plaque formation. Polyphenol in extra virgin olive oil neutralize these free radicals before they can cause harm, acting like a protective shield that slows the aging and deterioration of the vascular system. One of the most important targets of olive oil polyphenol is LDL cholesterol. LDL itself is not inherently dangerous, but when it becomes oxidized, it turns into a major contributor to arterial plaque. Oxidized LDL is more likely to penetrate artery walls and trigger an inflammatory response that accelerates plaque buildup. Polyphenol reduces the oxidation of LDL particles, making them less harmful and less likely to initiate the cascade that leads to clogged and unstable arteries. Inflammation is a central driver of heart disease, and olive oil has a unique ability to calm it without suppressing essential immune function. Certain polyphenol in extra virgin olive oil have effects similar to mild anti-inflammatory medications, but they work gently and consistently through daily intake rather than as a short-term intervention. By lowering inflammatory signaling within blood vessels, olive oil helps maintain a smoother arterial lining that resists plaque adhesion and narrowing. Beyond preventing plaque formation, olive oil plays a critical role in preventing plaque rupture, which is the event that triggers most heart attacks. Plaques that form in inflamed environments tend to be unstable and prone to breaking open. When a plaque ruptures, the body rushes to form a clot, which can suddenly block blood flow. Olive oil polyphenol helps stabilize plaques by reducing inflammation and oxidative stress within the arterial wall, making them less likely to rupture under pressure. Extra virgin olive oil also improves the function of the endothelium, the thin layer of cells lining the inside of blood vessels. A healthy endothelium regulates blood flow, prevents unnecessary clotting, and responds appropriately to changes in demand. When endothelial function is impaired, blood vessels lose their ability to relax, blood pressure rises, and clot risk increases. Olive oil supports endothelial health by enhancing nitric oxide availability, allowing vessels to dilate and blood to flow more freely. The monounsaturated fats in olive oil further enhance its cardiovascular benefits. These fats replace more harmful saturated and trans fats in the diet, improving overall lipid balance. Diets rich in monounsaturated fats are associated with lower levels of LDL cholesterol and higher levels of HDL cholesterol, which helps transport excess cholesterol away from arteries. This shift in fat quality reduces long-term stress on the cardiovascular system and complements the protective effects of polyphenol. Another often overlooked benefit of olive oil is its impact on blood sugar regulation. Spikes in blood sugar damage blood vessels and promote inflammation, increasing the risk of heart attacks and strokes. Extra virgin olive oil slows the digestion and absorption of carbohydrates when consumed as part of a meal, leading to more stable blood sugar levels. This stability protects arteries from glycation damage, a process where excess sugar binds to proteins in blood vessel walls and reduces their flexibility. Olive oil also influences blood clotting mechanisms. While it does not act as a strong blood thinner, it helps maintain a healthy balance by reducing excessive platelet aggregation. This lowers the likelihood of unwanted clots forming in narrowed arteries while still allowing normal clotting when injuries occur. This balanced effect is particularly important for stroke prevention, where clot formation is a primary cause. What makes extra virgin olive oil especially powerful is that its benefits depend on quality and consistency. True extra virgin olive oil is minimally processed and retains a high concentration of polyphenol, which are often lost in refined oils. When used regularly, these compounds accumulate their effects over time, gradually shifting the internal environment toward protection rather than damage. This is why populations that use olive oil daily as a primary fat source tend to have lower rates of heart disease despite moderate fat intake. Olive oil also works synergistically with other heart-healthy foods. When combined with vegetables, it enhances the absorption of fat-soluble antioxidants, amplifying their protective effects on blood vessels. When paired with fish, it helps protect delicate omega-3 fats from oxidation. This synergy makes olive oil a central component of dietary patterns that consistently show strong cardiovascular benefits. Stress and chronic inflammation often go hand in hand, and olive oil's anti-inflammatory properties help buffer the physiological effects of stress on the cardiovascular system. Lower inflammation means less arterial stiffness, better blood flow, and reduced strain on the heart. Over time, this contributes to a more resilient circulatory system that can adapt to daily challenges without tipping into disease. As people age, cumulative oxidative damage and inflammation increase the risk of arterial dysfunction. Extra virgin olive oil helps slow this process, preserving vascular flexibility and reducing the likelihood of sudden cardiovascular events. Its effects are not dramatic in the short term, but they are profound over decades, which is why it is so strongly associated with longevity and reduced heart attack risk. The simplicity of olive oil is part of its strength. It does not require special timing, complex rules, or drastic dietary changes. Used consistently in cooking, drizzling, or meal preparation, it quietly delivers protective compounds with every serving. This ease makes it sustainable, and sustainability is what allows its benefits to accumulate over time. When extra virgin olive oil becomes a daily staple, arteries are better protected from oxidative injury, inflammation is kept in check, plaque is more stable, and blood vessels remain more responsive and resilient. These effects work together to lower the risk of heart attacks and strokes in a way that feels natural and integrated into everyday life, reinforcing the idea that long-term cardiovascular health is built not through extremes, but through consistent nourishment that supports the body's design as it adapts to the signals it receives from food day after day. Healthy fats play a crucial role in preventing plaque rupture, which is the single most dangerous event leading to heart attacks and many strokes. Yet this fact is rarely discussed in simple terms. Most people believe heart attacks happen because arteries slowly clog until blood can no longer pass through, but in reality, many heart attacks occur in arteries that are only partially blocked. The real danger comes when plaque inside the artery becomes unstable, inflamed, and fragile, then suddenly ruptures. When that rupture happens, the body reacts as if there has been an injury and rapidly forms a blood clot, which can completely block blood flow within minutes, turning a manageable condition into a life-threatening emergency. Healthy fats help prevent this catastrophic moment by influencing the stability, structure, and behavior of plaque inside the arteries. Plaque is not just fat stuck to artery walls. It is a complex mixture of cholesterol, immune cells, calcium, and inflammatory compounds. When the internal environment of the body is inflamed and oxidatively stressed, plaque becomes soft, fragile, and prone to breaking open. Healthy fats shift this environment toward balance, reducing inflammation and strengthening the fibrous cap that covers plaque, making it less likely to rupture under stress. One of the key ways healthy fats work is by reducing chronic inflammation inside the arterial wall. Inflammation weakens the protective cap over plaque, thinning it and making it vulnerable to rupture. Omega-3 fats, monounsaturated fats from olive oil, and fats from nuts and seeds actively lower inflammatory signaling molecules. This reduces the immune system's constant attack on artery walls, allowing plaques to become more stable and less reactive. A stable plaque is far less dangerous than an inflamed, unstable one, even if it is present. Healthy fats also reduce oxidative stress, which is a major factor in plaque instability. Oxidative stress damages the cells that line the arteries and accelerates the breakdown of the plaque's protective surface. When LDL cholesterol becomes oxidized, it triggers further inflammation and attracts more immune cells into the plaque, increasing its volatility. Antioxidant-rich fats, especially those found in extra virgin olive oil and fatty fish, help neutralize free radicals and prevent this destructive cycle from escalating. Another important role of healthy fats is improving the quality of cholesterol particles in the bloodstream. Not all LDL particles behave the same way. Small, dense LDL particles are more likely to penetrate artery walls and contribute to unstable plaque formation. Healthy fats shift cholesterol patterns toward larger, less dense LDL particles that are less prone to oxidation and arterial damage. At the same time, they increase HDL cholesterol, which helps remove excess cholesterol from plaques and transport it back to the liver for disposal, reducing plaque burden and instability over time. Blood vessel lining health is deeply connected to plaque stability, and healthy fats support this lining at a cellular level. The endothelium acts as a protective barrier between blood and the arterial wall. When it is damaged by poor diet, high blood sugar, or inflammation, plaque becomes more exposed to circulating blood components that can trigger clot formation. Healthy fats become part of endothelial cell membranes, improving their flexibility, resilience, and ability to regulate inflammation and clotting. A strong, healthy endothelium helps keep plaques sealed and stable. Blood clotting behavior also plays a role in how dangerous plaque rupture becomes. While healthy fats cannot prevent every rupture, they can reduce the severity of the body's clotting response when one occurs. Omega-3 fats, in particular, reduce excessive platelet aggregation, making clots less aggressive and slower to form. This can mean the difference between a partial blockage that the body can compensate for and a complete blockage that causes a heart attack or stroke within minutes. Healthy fats also help regulate blood pressure, which directly affects plaque rupture risk. High blood pressure increases mechanical stress on artery walls and plaques, making them more likely to crack under pressure. By improving vessel flexibility and reducing resistance to blood flow, healthy fats lower blood pressure and reduce the physical force exerted on plaques with every heartbeat. Less pressure means less stress on already vulnerable arterial areas. Insulin resistance and unstable blood sugar significantly increase plaque instability, and healthy fats help address this issue as well. When blood sugar spikes frequently, it promotes inflammation and damages the collagen structure that helps stabilize plaque. Healthy fats slow carbohydrate absorption, improve insulin sensitivity, and reduce glycation damage to blood vessels. This metabolic stability translates into more stable plaque structure and reduced rupture risk over time. One of the most overlooked aspects of plaque rupture prevention is consistency. Healthy fats are not emergency tools, they are long-term stabilizers. Their benefits accumulate gradually as they are incorporated into cell membranes, influence gene expression, and reshape inflammatory pathways. This means their protective effect grows stronger with regular intake, making daily dietary patterns far more important than occasional healthy choices. Populations that consume diets rich in healthy fats consistently show lower rates of fatal heart attacks despite having similar or even higher total cholesterol levels compared to other groups. This paradox highlights the importance of plaque stability rather than plaque presence alone. Healthy fats do not necessarily eliminate plaque entirely, but they transform it into a quieter, more stable form that is far less likely to cause sudden blockage and death. Another important factor is how healthy fats replace harmful fats in the diet. When saturated and trans fats are reduced and replaced with unsaturated fats, inflammation decreases and lipid profiles improve. This replacement effect lowers the overall stress on arteries and reduces the formation of unstable plaque. It's not just about adding healthy fats, but about shifting the entire fat balance toward compounds that support vascular integrity rather than undermine it. Stress also influences plaque stability through hormonal pathways that increase inflammation and blood pressure. Healthy fats support brain health and nervous system balance, helping moderate stress responses. Lower stress hormones mean less inflammatory signaling and reduced strain on arteries, indirectly supporting plaque stability and cardiovascular resilience. As people age, plaques tend to become more common, but age alone does not determine rupture risk. Diet quality plays a major role in whether plaques remain stable or become dangerous. Healthy fats slow age-related increases in inflammation and oxidative stress, helping preserve arterial structure and function even later in life. This protective effect becomes increasingly important with each passing decade. The idea that fat is harmful to the heart has caused generations to avoid foods that could have protected them. The problem was never fat itself, but the type of fat consumed. Healthy fats provide the raw materials the body needs to build strong cell membranes, regulate inflammation, and maintain vascular integrity. Without them, arteries become fragile, reactive, and prone to sudden failure. When healthy fats are consumed regularly as part of a balanced diet, plaques are more likely to remain sealed, inflammation stays lower, blood pressure is better controlled, and clot formation is less aggressive. These combined effects dramatically reduce the likelihood that a plaque will rupture and trigger a heart attack or stroke, making healthy fats one of the most critical yet misunderstood components of long-term cardiovascular protection as the body continuously adapts to the signals it receives from food and builds either stability or vulnerability based on those daily choices. Fiber-rich foods such as lentils, beans, chickpeas, quinoa, and other whole plant carbohydrates play a powerful and often underestimated role in protecting the heart and brain because they work directly on two of the most dangerous drivers of cardiovascular disease: excess cholesterol and unstable blood sugar. These foods are not just sources of energy, they actively interact with the digestive system, the bloodstream, hormones, and even gut bacteria to create an internal environment that is far less likely to lead to heart attacks and strokes over time. One of the most important actions of dietary fiber is its ability to bind to cholesterol in the digestive tract. When you eat fiber, especially soluble fiber found in legumes and whole grains, it forms a gel-like substance in the gut. This gel traps bile acids, which are made from cholesterol and released by the liver to help digest fats. When fiber carries these bile acids out of the body through waste, the liver must pull more cholesterol from the bloodstream to make new bile. This natural recycling process gradually lowers circulating LDL cholesterol, reducing the amount available to settle into artery walls. This process happens quietly and consistently with regular fiber intake. Unlike medications that force cholesterol levels down rapidly, fiber works in harmony with the body's natural systems. Over time, arteries are exposed to less cholesterol-related stress, which slows plaque buildup and reduces inflammation within vessel walls. Lower cholesterol availability also means existing plaques are less likely to grow or become unstable, which directly lowers the risk of heart attacks and strokes. Fiber's impact on blood sugar may be even more important. When carbohydrates are consumed without fiber, they are rapidly broken down into glucose, causing sharp spikes in blood sugar. These spikes trigger large releases of insulin, and over time, repeated surges lead to insulin resistance. Insulin resistance damages blood vessels, promotes inflammation, and dramatically increases cardiovascular risk. Fiber slows the digestion and absorption of carbohydrates, allowing glucose to enter the bloodstream gradually rather than all at once. Stable blood sugar means lower insulin demand, reduced oxidative stress, and less damage to the delicate lining of blood vessels. This stability protects arteries from glycation, a process where excess sugar binds to proteins in vessel walls and stiffens them. Stiff arteries raise blood pressure and increase strain on the heart, So preventing glycation through steady blood sugar control is a major form of cardiovascular protection that fiber-rich foods provide naturally. Another powerful benefit of fiber-rich foods is their effect on gut bacteria. The human gut contains trillions of microorganisms that influence inflammation, metabolism, and even cholesterol production. Fiber acts as fuel for beneficial bacteria, allowing them to produce short-chain fatty acids that reduce inflammation and improve insulin sensitivity. These compounds also signal the liver to reduce cholesterol production, creating a second pathway through which fiber improves lipid balance and vascular health. When the gut microbiome is well supported, inflammatory signals throughout the body decrease. Lower systemic inflammation means arteries are less irritated and more flexible, reducing the likelihood of plaque formation and rupture. This gut-heart connection is one of the reasons diets high in legumes and whole plant foods are consistently associated with lower rates of heart disease and stroke across different populations and cultures. Fiber-rich foods also support healthy body weight, which indirectly lowers cardiovascular risk. These foods are filling, slow to digest, and nutrient-dense, helping people feel satisfied without overeating. Excess body fat, especially around the abdomen, increases inflammation, raises blood pressure, and worsens insulin resistance. By supporting natural appetite control and stable energy levels, fiber helps reduce these risk factors without requiring extreme calorie restriction. Another important effect of fiber is its influence on triglycerides. High triglyceride levels make blood thicker and more prone to clotting, increasing stroke risk. Fiber helps reduce triglycerides by improving insulin sensitivity and slowing fat absorption. Lower triglycerides contribute to smoother blood flow and less stress on the heart, further lowering the risk of sudden cardiovascular events. Fiber-rich carbohydrates also prevent the dramatic energy crashes that often lead to poor food choices later in the day. When blood sugar remains stable, cravings for sugary or processed foods decrease. This reduces intake of foods that directly damage blood vessels and promote inflammation. In this way, fiber creates a protective ripple effect, improving not only what happens inside the body but also future dietary decisions. The slow, steady digestion of fiber-rich foods also reduces stress hormone release. Blood sugar crashes trigger cortisol and adrenaline, which raise blood pressure and heart rate. By preventing these fluctuations, fiber helps keep the nervous system calmer and the cardiovascular system under less strain throughout the day. This hormonal stability plays a subtle but important role in long-term heart and brain health. Another often overlooked benefit of fiber is its role in reducing post-meal inflammation. Large spikes in blood sugar and fat after meals temporarily increase inflammatory markers and impair blood vessel function. Fiber blunts these spikes, protecting arteries during the critical hours after eating when damage is most likely to occur. Repeating this protective effect meal after meal significantly reduces cumulative vascular stress over the years. Fiber-rich foods also provide essential minerals such as magnesium and potassium, which further support blood pressure regulation and vascular relaxation. While fiber itself plays the starring role, these accompanying nutrients enhance its benefits, making whole foods far more effective than isolated fiber supplements. This is why lentils, beans, and whole grains consistently outperform processed low-fiber alternatives, even when calories appear similar. Consistency is key when it comes to fiber. The body adapts to regular fiber intake by improving gut function, insulin sensitivity, and lipid metabolism. Sporadic fiber consumption cannot produce the same protective effects as daily intake. When fiber-rich foods become a staple rather than an occasional choice, the cardiovascular system gradually shifts toward resilience and stability. Many people avoid fiber-rich foods because they believe carbohydrates are harmful to the heart. The reality is that refined carbohydrates are the problem, not fiber-rich whole ones. When carbohydrates are packaged with fiber, they behave entirely differently in the body. They nourish rather than stress the system, providing steady energy while actively protecting blood vessels from damage. For individuals with existing risk factors such as high cholesterol, prediabetes, or metabolic syndrome, fiber-rich foods are especially powerful. They address multiple issues at once without increasing medication burden. While they do not replace medical treatment, they strengthen the body's ability to regulate itself, often improving outcomes and slowing disease progression. The beauty of fiber-rich foods lies in their simplicity and accessibility. They are inexpensive, widely available, and easy to incorporate into meals. When eaten regularly, they quietly remove excess cholesterol, stabilize blood sugar, reduce inflammation, and support smooth blood flow, creating a strong defense against heart attacks and strokes that build steadily over time as the body continues responding to the quality and consistency of nourishment it receives day after day. Stable blood sugar is one of the most critical but often overlooked factors in long-term cardiovascular health. When blood sugar is unstable, spiking and crashing repeatedly, it sets off a cascade of physiological events that gradually damage blood vessels, increase inflammation, and raise the risk of heart attacks and strokes. The body is designed to maintain glucose levels within a narrow range, and when this balance is disrupted over months and years, it has profound consequences for the arteries, the heart, and the brain. Fiber-rich, nutrient-dense foods like legumes, whole grains, and vegetables play a crucial role in preventing these fluctuations. But understanding why stable blood sugar is so important requires a closer look at how the body processes sugar and the impact of repeated spikes. When you consume a meal high in refined carbohydrates or sugars, glucose floods into the bloodstream rapidly. This sudden surge triggers a strong insulin response, as the pancreas releases insulin to move sugar out of the blood and into cells. Over time, repeated spikes force the body to produce increasingly large amounts of insulin, and cells may become less responsive to the hormone, a condition known as insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is a major driver of cardiovascular disease because it not only raises blood sugar, but also promotes inflammation, oxidative stress, and arterial stiffness. The arteries themselves become more vulnerable to damage, and the risk of plaque formation increases. Unstable blood sugar also directly contributes to oxidative stress, a process where excess glucose reacts with proteins and lipids in the body to form harmful compounds called advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. AGEs stiffen the walls of arteries, making them less flexible and more prone to injury. Stiff arteries increase blood pressure, forcing the heart to work harder with each beat, and create areas where blood flow becomes turbulent, promoting the buildup of plaque. Over time, this combination of stiffness, inflammation, and plaque formation dramatically raises the risk of both heart attacks and strokes. Inflammation triggered by blood sugar spikes is another critical factor. High glucose levels stimulate the release of pro-inflammatory cytokines, which circulate through the bloodstream and irritate the inner lining of blood vessels, the endothelium. A healthy endothelium regulates blood flow, prevents excessive clotting, and signals vessels to dilate as needed. When inflammation disrupts this function, arteries become less flexible, more prone to clot formation, and more likely to develop unstable plaque. Chronic, low-grade inflammation is often silent, but it accumulates over years, quietly increasing cardiovascular risk without obvious symptoms. Stable blood sugar also influences the composition and behavior of lipids in the blood. Frequent spikes in glucose and insulin can increase triglyceride levels and promote the formation of small, dense LDL particles, which are more likely to penetrate artery walls and contribute to plaque buildup. At the same time, unstable blood sugar can lower HDL cholesterol, the protective type that removes excess cholesterol from arteries. This imbalance creates an environment where arteries are exposed to higher levels of damaging fats and less of the protective mechanisms that prevent plaque accumulation. The heart itself suffers when blood sugar is unstable. Rapid fluctuations in glucose create stress on cardiac cells, impair mitochondrial function, and can even promote arrhythmias in susceptible individuals. The combination of vascular stress, inflammation, and irregular heart rhythms sets the stage for acute events like heart attacks. The brain is equally affected. Cerebral arteries are delicate and highly sensitive to changes in blood glucose. Spikes and crashes can impair blood flow, increase clotting risk, and accelerate the small vessel damage that contributes to strokes, cognitive decline, and vascular dementia. Insulin resistance and high blood sugar also affect other systems that indirectly influence cardiovascular health. For example, high glucose promotes sodium retention, raising blood pressure, and contributes to weight gain, particularly around the abdomen, which further increases inflammation and vascular stress. The liver is stressed as it struggles to process excess glucose and fat, which can lead to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, a condition linked to higher cardiovascular risk. By keeping blood sugar stable, these secondary systems are also supported. Reducing the overall burden on the heart and vessels. Diet is the most powerful lever for stabilizing blood sugar. Fiber-rich foods, including lentils, beans, whole grains, vegetables, and fruits, slow the digestion and absorption of carbohydrates, preventing rapid glucose spikes. These foods act as a buffer, releasing sugar gradually into the bloodstream and reducing the need for large insulin surges. The slow, steady supply of energy not only protects arteries from glycation damage, but also reduces oxidative stress and inflammation, creating a more balanced internal environment for the cardiovascular system. Pairing fiber-rich foods with healthy fats and proteins further enhances blood sugar stability. Fats and proteins slow stomach emptying and extend the absorption of glucose, blunting spikes even more effectively. Meals that combine complex carbohydrates, fiber, protein, and healthy fats mimic the body's natural rhythm for glucose management, allowing insulin to work efficiently without overwhelming the system. This kind of balanced eating not only protects the heart and brain but also improves energy, mood, and overall metabolic function. Another critical aspect of blood sugar stability is its influence on clotting and vascular flexibility. High blood sugar promotes platelet aggregation and increases the stickiness of blood, which makes clot formation more likely in narrowed arteries. Stable blood sugar reduces this stickiness, allowing blood to flow smoothly and reducing the risk of blockages that can trigger heart attacks or strokes. Blood vessels also respond better to nitric oxide signaling when glucose levels are steady, maintaining elasticity and proper dilation that keep blood pressure within healthy ranges. Stable blood sugar also has a cumulative protective effect over years. Each day of controlled glucose levels reduces the incremental stress on arteries and the heart, preventing the slow accumulation of damage that eventually leads to cardiovascular events. Even minor improvements in post-meal blood sugar can have profound long-term effects, lowering the risk of heart disease and stroke without requiring dramatic interventions or medication in otherwise healthy individuals. Exercise and lifestyle factors complement dietary strategies for stabilizing blood sugar. Regular physical activity increases insulin sensitivity, allowing muscles to absorb glucose more efficiently and reducing the burden on the pancreas. Adequate sleep, stress management, and consistent meal timing also help regulate glucose and insulin levels, further supporting vascular health. Together, these practices create a synergistic system that keeps blood sugar steady and arteries protected. For individuals with existing risk factors such as prediabetes, metabolic syndrome, or elevated cholesterol, stable blood sugar is even more critical. Small improvements in glucose control can slow or reverse damage to arteries, reduce inflammation, and lower triglycerides, significantly decreasing the risk of heart attacks and strokes. Fiber-rich, balanced meals provide a safe, natural way to achieve this stability while also supporting overall health and metabolic function. The benefits of stable blood sugar extend beyond the cardiovascular system. Consistent glucose levels improve brain function, reduce fatigue, support hormonal balance, and enhance mood. These systemic effects create a positive feedback loop. When the body is less stressed by glucose swings, inflammation decreases, heart rate and blood pressure are more stable, and the cardiovascular system operates more efficiently. Over time, this protective effect accumulates, reducing the likelihood of catastrophic events and supporting long-term vitality and resilience. When stable blood sugar becomes a regular pattern through diet, lifestyle, and balanced nutrition, the arteries remain more flexible, the heart works more efficiently, inflammatory processes slow, and the risk of plaque formation and rupture diminishes. Each meal becomes an opportunity to reinforce the stability, and over months and years, the cumulative effect is profound, lowering the risk of heart attacks and strokes while supporting the body's ability to function optimally in every aspect of daily life as it continuously adapts to the quality of nourishment and care it receives. The power of a single protective meal is amplified when it replaces processed foods and becomes part of a consistent lifestyle, and understanding why requires looking at how diet patterns influence the body over time. Eating one heart-healthy, nutrient-dense meal occasionally is beneficial, but the true preventive impact comes from establishing a rhythm where this meal becomes a repeated choice. Our bodies are highly responsive to patterns, and repeated exposure to high-quality nutrients gradually shifts internal systems toward balance, resilience, and repair. When a protective meal consistently takes the place of processed, nutrient-poor foods, it doesn't just provide individual benefits. It reshapes the environment in which the heart, blood vessels, and metabolic systems function daily. Processed foods, which dominate many modern diets, are often high in refined sugars, unhealthy fats, sodium, and additives, all of which increase the risk of cardiovascular disease. These foods contribute to spikes in blood sugar, chronic inflammation, oxidative stress, and the accumulation of harmful cholesterol particles in arteries. Every meal of this type subtly damages blood vessels, raises blood pressure, and primes the body for plaque formation. In contrast, a meal designed to prevent heart attacks and strokes works in the opposite direction, lowering inflammation, stabilizing blood sugar, improving lipid profiles, and enhancing endothelial function. When such a meal replaces a processed option, it interrupts the cycle of harm and begins to tilt the body's systems toward protection. Consistency is essential because the body responds to repeated signals. One well-constructed meal can lower triglycerides, improve endothelial function, and reduce oxidative stress for a few hours. But when it becomes a regular part of the diet, these protective effects compound. The more frequently the body experiences these positive signals, the more stable and resilient the cardiovascular system becomes. Repeated exposure to nutrient-rich foods strengthens the endothelium, reduces arterial inflammation, and supports a more balanced immune response, which together decrease the likelihood of plaque instability and rupture. Replacing processed foods with a protective meal also helps manage weight and metabolic health, both of which are major determinants of cardiovascular risk. Processed foods are energy-dense but nutrient-poor, promoting overeating, fat accumulation, and insulin resistance. A heart-healthy meal, on the other hand, is filling, nutrient-dense, and balanced in macronutrients, which helps regulate appetite, improve insulin sensitivity, and stabilize blood sugar. Over time, this consistent replacement reduces excess fat, particularly visceral fat around the abdomen, which is highly inflammatory and strongly associated with heart disease and stroke. Another major benefit of consistent meal replacement is its effect on chronic inflammation. Processed foods tend to elevate inflammatory markers, while protective meals rich in omega-3 fats, antioxidants, fiber, and micronutrients actively reduce inflammation. When the harmful inputs are removed and replaced with anti-inflammatory ingredients, the cumulative effect over days, weeks, and months is a lower baseline of inflammation throughout the body. Lower systemic inflammation improves blood vessel function, reduces plaque vulnerability, and enhances overall cardiovascular resilience. Lipid balance is also dramatically influenced by consistent dietary choices. Processed foods often contain trans fats and unhealthy saturated fats that raise LDL cholesterol and triglycerides while lowering HDL cholesterol. Over time, these imbalances accelerate plaque formation and increase clotting risk. A protective meal that includes fatty fish, olive oil, and fiber-rich vegetables and legumes helps reverse these trends. Regular consumption leads to more stable LDL particles, higher HDL, and lower triglycerides, creating a blood lipid environment that is much less conducive to arterial damage and rupture. Blood pressure, another critical factor in cardiovascular health, responds to repeated dietary patterns as well. Processed foods are high in sodium and low in potassium, magnesium, and nitrates, which drives up blood pressure. Replacing them with a nutrient-rich meal restores mineral balance, supports vasodilation, and reduces arterial stiffness. Over time, repeated exposure to these beneficial nutrients lowers baseline blood pressure, decreasing the mechanical stress on arteries that contributes to plaque rupture and heart attacks. Consistent replacement of processed foods also improves insulin sensitivity and reduces the risk of type 2 diabetes, which is closely linked to cardiovascular disease. Repeated exposure to refined carbohydrates, sugars, and high glycemic foods promotes insulin resistance, glycation damage to vessels, and chronic inflammation. Each protective meal acts as a countermeasure, slowing glucose absorption, reducing insulin surges, and protecting endothelial cells. When this pattern becomes habitual, the cumulative effect is a much lower risk of metabolic dysfunction and its associated cardiovascular complications. Psychological factors also play a role in the success of consistent meal replacement. Knowing that a specific meal is intentionally protective reduces decision fatigue and provides a clear daily framework. Instead of worrying about what is allowed or forbidden, individuals develop a reliable routine that supports their health automatically. This consistency reduces stress, which in itself is a contributor to high blood pressure, inflammation, and cardiovascular strain, creating a virtuous cycle where nutrition and mental well-being reinforce one another. The timing and context of meal replacement are also important. Meals eaten consistently at regular intervals help regulate circadian rhythms, insulin response, and metabolic hormone cycles. Replacing processed snacks or convenience foods with a nutrient-rich meal at the same time each day can normalize blood sugar patterns, reduce post-meal inflammatory spikes, and support better overnight repair and recovery processes. Over weeks and months, these repeated benefits accumulate, improving cardiovascular resilience and metabolic stability. Additionally, the gut microbiome responds positively to repeated exposure to fiber-rich, nutrient-dense meals. Each meal feeds beneficial bacteria that produce short-chain fatty acids, which reduce inflammation, improve insulin sensitivity, and support vascular health. Conversely, processed foods promote the growth of harmful bacteria that contribute to inflammation and metabolic dysfunction. By consistently replacing processed foods with protective meals, the internal microbial environment shifts toward one that supports long-term cardiovascular protection. Habit formation is another crucial aspect. One protective meal can serve as the anchor around which other healthy behaviors develop. As people experience the benefits of improved energy, reduced cravings, and better digestion from a consistent nutrient-rich meal, they are more likely to make additional positive choices throughout the day, such as choosing vegetables at lunch, opting for whole grains, or incorporating more movement. This ripple effect multiplies the impact of a single meal far beyond its immediate nutritional content. Long-term adherence is what turns short-term interventions into lasting prevention. Cardiovascular disease develops over decades, and short bursts of healthy eating cannot fully offset years of poor dietary patterns. By consistently replacing processed foods with protective meals, individuals create a sustainable, long-term strategy that gradually remodels the body's internal environment toward reduced inflammation, better lipid profiles, improved blood sugar control, and stronger, more resilient arteries. The protective impact of repeated healthy meals extends beyond measurable biomarkers. It affects overall resilience, mood, energy levels, and quality of life. People who establish consistent nutrient-rich meals report improved mental clarity, better sleep, and reduced fatigue, all of which indirectly support heart health. Stress is lowered, hormonal balance improves, and the body is better able to repair and maintain itself, further enhancing cardiovascular protection. Over months and years, the cumulative effect of consistent meal replacement becomes profound. Arteries become less inflamed, plaques stabilize, blood pressure normalizes, blood sugar remains steady, and the risk of acute cardiovascular events declines significantly. What begins as a single conscious choice evolves into a lifestyle pattern that continuously reinforces heart and brain health, proving that prevention is not about one-off interventions but about steady, repeated actions that shift the body's internal environment toward resilience and protection every day as the cycle of nutrient support builds quietly and powerfully over time. Hydration and the consumption of water-rich foods play an often underestimated but absolutely critical role in cardiovascular health, particularly when it comes to preventing heart attacks and strokes. Blood is not just a liquid that moves through our veins. It is a complex, dynamic system that carries oxygen, nutrients, hormones, and immune cells to every part of the body. For blood to perform all of these functions efficiently, it must have the right consistency and flow properties. Dehydration, even mild, can make blood thicker and more prone to clotting, increasing strain on the heart and the likelihood of blockages forming in arteries. Maintaining proper hydration is therefore not just about quenching thirst. It is about creating an internal environment where blood can circulate smoothly, vessels remain flexible, and the heart is supported in its daily workload. When the body is chronically underhydrated, blood viscosity increases. Thicker blood flows less easily through arteries and capillaries, which places additional mechanical stress on the heart. The heart must pump harder to maintain adequate circulation, raising blood pressure and forcing arterial walls to endure higher levels of pressure with each heartbeat. Over time, this increased workload contributes to vascular damage, accelerates the development of arterial stiffness, and makes existing plaque more likely to rupture. Even small improvements in hydration can reduce blood viscosity, lower blood pressure, and help maintain smoother circulation, creating a protective effect against heart attacks and strokes. Proper hydration also influences the behavior of platelets, the cells responsible for clotting. When blood is thicker and more concentrated, platelets are more likely to clump together unnecessarily, forming microclots that can obstruct blood flow. Over time, these microclots increase the risk of larger, dangerous blockages in arteries, particularly those supplying the heart and brain. By keeping blood fluid and well-balanced, hydration reduces excessive platelet aggregation and supports safer clotting behavior, which directly lowers the risk of sudden cardiovascular events. Water-rich foods contribute to hydration while simultaneously providing nutrients that support cardiovascular function. Fruits like watermelon, oranges, and berries, as well as vegetables such as cucumber, celery, and lettuce, not only contain high water content but also supply potassium, magnesium, and antioxidants. Potassium, in particular, helps balance sodium levels in the body and relax blood vessels, which reduces blood pressure. Magnesium supports the relaxation of smooth muscles and arterial walls, improving vessel flexibility and lowering the mechanical stress that can destabilize plaques. Antioxidants neutralize free radicals that contribute to oxidative stress, further protecting the integrity of arteries. Hydration from food, therefore, has a dual role, maintaining fluid balance and delivering protective nutrients. Electrolyte balance is another critical aspect of hydration that impacts heart health. Sodium, potassium, calcium, and magnesium work together to regulate nerve signaling, muscle contraction, and blood pressure. When hydration is inadequate, electrolyte balance can be disrupted, leading to increased vascular resistance, irregular heart rhythms, and higher blood pressure. Water-rich foods, combined with adequate fluid intake, help maintain this delicate balance, allowing the heart and blood vessels to operate optimally and reducing the risk of cardiovascular events. Hydration also affects how efficiently the body removes waste products and toxins. The kidneys rely on adequate fluid intake to filter the blood, excrete excess sodium, and remove metabolic byproducts. Poor kidney function due to chronic dehydration can lead to fluid retention, higher blood pressure, and increased vascular stress. By supporting kidney function, consistent hydration helps maintain a balanced internal environment that protects arteries and reduces strain on the cardiovascular system. Another mechanism by which hydration protects the heart is through its effect on blood sugar and insulin sensitivity. Dehydration can impair glucose metabolism, leading to higher blood sugar levels and increased insulin demand. Elevated blood sugar promotes inflammation, stiffens arteries through glycation, and contributes to plaque formation. Staying well hydrated improves glucose transport and insulin efficiency, reducing these metabolic stresses and helping maintain arterial flexibility, lower inflammation, and more stable blood pressure, all of which protect against heart attacks and strokes. Hydration also has an indirect but powerful influence on inflammation throughout the body. Chronic low-grade inflammation contributes to plaque vulnerability, arterial stiffness, and endothelial dysfunction. Water and water-rich foods help maintain cellular hydration, which supports proper cellular function, reduces stress on the endothelium, and assists in the removal of inflammatory byproducts. This anti-inflammatory effect is subtle but cumulative, quietly lowering cardiovascular risk over time when consistent hydration is maintained. Temperature regulation is another critical function influenced by hydration that indirectly affects cardiovascular health. Dehydration impairs the body's ability to regulate temperature, which can increase heart rate and place additional strain on blood vessels. This is especially relevant during exercise or in hot environments when the heart must work harder to circulate blood efficiently. Adequate hydration keeps the body cooler, reduces cardiovascular strain, and allows the heart to maintain a steady, safe rhythm during daily activities. Hydration also impacts the flexibility and function of the endothelium, the thin lining of blood vessels that regulates blood flow and clotting. Properly hydrated cells maintain their shape and signaling capacity, allowing nitric oxide production to occur efficiently. Nitric oxide is a critical molecule that signals blood vessels to dilate, improves circulation, and reduces blood pressure. When hydration is low, endothelial function is impaired, nitric oxide production declines, and arteries become less flexible, making them more susceptible to damage and plaque instability. Behavioral factors also tie into hydration. People who are adequately hydrated tend to make better dietary choices, experience less fatigue, and maintain more consistent physical activity levels, all of which contribute to cardiovascular health. Fatigue and dehydration can lead to poor food choices, higher consumption of processed foods, and reduced exercise, which compound cardiovascular risk. Maintaining proper hydration supports both physiological and behavioral mechanisms that protect the heart and brain. In addition to plain water, beverages such as herbal teas and foods with high water content contribute meaningfully to daily hydration. Unlike sugary drinks, which raise blood sugar and contribute to vascular inflammation, water-rich foods and unsweetened beverages hydrate the body while supporting metabolic stability. This dual benefit reinforces the cardiovascular protective effects, making it easier to maintain fluid balance without introducing additional stressors that could harm the arteries. Hydration also interacts synergistically with other protective dietary elements. For example, fiber from fruits and vegetables absorbs water, which slows digestion, stabilizes blood sugar, and improves cholesterol balance. Omega-3 fats and polyphenol, when consumed alongside hydrated meals, are better distributed and utilized within the bloodstream, enhancing their anti-inflammatory and lipid-stabilizing effects. This synergy illustrates how hydration amplifies the benefits of other nutrients, making it an essential foundation of heart-healthy nutrition. Consistency is key. Occasional hydration is not enough to provide lasting cardiovascular protection. Chronic, adequate fluid intake ensures that blood viscosity remains low, electrolytes stay balanced, inflammation is minimized, and endothelial function is preserved. Over time, the cumulative effect of maintaining hydration translates into smoother circulation, reduced cardiac workload, lower blood pressure, and a decreased likelihood of clot formation and plaque rupture, all of which dramatically reduce the risk of heart attacks and strokes. Finally, hydration has long-term benefits for both preventative and ongoing cardiovascular health. As the body ages, the efficiency of blood flow, kidney function, and endothelial responsiveness naturally declines. Maintaining hydration supports these systems, slowing age-related vascular deterioration and providing a baseline of resilience against sudden cardiovascular events. Proper hydration, combined with water-rich, nutrient-dense foods, creates an internal environment where the heart and blood vessels can function optimally, oxygen delivery is efficient, and the risks associated with blood thickening, inflammation, and arterial stress are minimized, continuously supporting cardiovascular health day after day. Lifestyle factors such as regular exercise, adequate sleep, and stress management play a profound role in preventing heart attacks and strokes, often complementing the benefits of a healthy diet in ways that amplify overall cardiovascular protection. While nutrition provides the building blocks for healthy arteries, blood, and heart function, lifestyle choices create the environment in which those nutrients can be fully utilized and their effects maximized. Exercise, sleep, and stress control are not isolated elements. They interact with each other, and with diet to influence blood pressure, inflammation, endothelial function, lipid metabolism, blood sugar stability, and even the stability of arterial plaques, all of which are critical in reducing the risk of cardiovascular events. Regular physical activity is perhaps the most studied and impactful lifestyle factor for cardiovascular health. When the heart is exercised through consistent aerobic or resistance activity, it becomes stronger and more efficient. A stronger heart pumps blood more effectively with each beat, reducing the stress on arterial walls and lowering blood pressure over time. Exercise also increases blood flow throughout the body, which improves the delivery of oxygen and nutrients to tissues and enhances the removal of metabolic waste products. This enhanced circulation supports endothelial function, the flexibility of blood vessels, and nitric oxide signaling, which are all critical in maintaining smooth, unobstructed blood flow and reducing the likelihood of plaque rupture or clot formation. Exercise also influences lipid metabolism in meaningful ways. Regular activity increases HDL cholesterol, which helps remove excess cholesterol from arterial plaques and can reduce triglycerides, which are associated with thickened blood and increased clotting risk. Exercise-induced improvements in lipid profiles complement dietary measures such as consuming healthy fats and fiber-rich foods, creating a multi-layered approach to preventing plaque buildup and promoting vascular health. In addition, physical activity helps regulate insulin sensitivity, stabilizing blood sugar and preventing spikes that can damage arterial walls and promote inflammation, further reinforcing cardiovascular protection. The anti-inflammatory effects of exercise are another key component. Chronic low-grade inflammation is a major driver of heart attacks and strokes, as it destabilizes plaques, stiffens arteries, and disrupts endothelial signaling. Exercise reduces systemic inflammation by modulating immune function, decreasing pro-inflammatory cytokines, and enhancing the production of anti-inflammatory molecules. These effects are cumulative, meaning that regular exercise continually lowers the baseline inflammatory state of the body, allowing arteries to remain more resilient and less prone to the triggers that can lead to acute cardiovascular events. Sleep is equally important and often underappreciated. Adequate sleep supports cardiovascular health by regulating blood pressure, heart rate, hormone levels, and inflammatory responses. During deep sleep, the body undergoes repair processes that restore endothelial function, reduce oxidative stress, and stabilize cortisol levels. Poor or insufficient sleep, on the other hand, leads to elevated blood pressure, increased inflammatory markers, impaired glucose metabolism, and higher stress hormone levels, all of which contribute directly to the formation and destabilization of arterial plaques. Sleep also supports mental resilience, helping to manage stress and reduce behaviors such as poor dietary choices or sedentary habits that indirectly harm cardiovascular health. Stress management is intertwined with both exercise and sleep and has a direct impact on cardiovascular risk. Chronic stress activates the sympathetic nervous system and the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, releasing cortisol and adrenaline. These stress hormones elevate blood pressure, increase heart rate, and promote inflammation, all of which strain the cardiovascular system. Chronic stress can also trigger unhealthy behaviors, including overeating, high sugar consumption, smoking, or alcohol use, compounding the risk. Techniques such as mindfulness, meditation, deep breathing exercises, yoga, or simply structured relaxation time help modulate these stress responses, reducing arterial strain, inflammation, and the likelihood of acute events like heart attacks or strokes. Lifestyle factors influence the stability of arterial plaques in ways that diet alone cannot achieve. Plaques are more likely to rupture under conditions of high blood pressure, systemic inflammation, oxidative stress, and abnormal clotting tendencies. Regular exercise lowers blood pressure, reduces inflammation, enhances nitric oxide production, and improves the flexibility of blood vessels, directly contributing to plaque stability. Adequate sleep and effective stress management reinforce these protective effects by maintaining hormonal balance, stabilizing endothelial function, and preventing acute spikes in blood pressure and heart rate that could trigger plaque rupture. The combined influence of these lifestyle factors creates a resilient cardiovascular environment where both arteries and the heart are better equipped to withstand daily physiological stress. Furthermore, these lifestyle choices enhance metabolic health, which indirectly protects the heart and brain. Exercise improves insulin sensitivity, helping to prevent blood sugar spikes and reduce the risk of diabetes. Sleep and stress management also support stable glucose levels, hormonal regulation, and energy balance. Metabolic stability reduces the oxidative and inflammatory burden on blood vessels, lowers the accumulation of small, dense LDL particles, and supports optimal blood lipid profiles. This creates an internal environment where blood flows smoothly, vessels remain flexible, and the risk of clot formation is minimized. Regular physical activity also improves the composition and function of the blood itself. Exercise enhances red blood cell flexibility, making it easier for them to pass through tiny capillaries and deliver oxygen efficiently. Improved circulation decreases the likelihood of clot formation and ensures that every tissue, including the brain, receives a steady supply of oxygen and nutrients. Hydration during exercise further supports blood viscosity and overall cardiovascular efficiency, creating a synergistic effect with water intake and nutrient-rich foods. Lifestyle factors also have cumulative and compounding effects over time. The benefits of consistent exercise, sufficient sleep, and effective stress management accumulate gradually, strengthening cardiovascular resilience year after year. Individuals who adopt these practices in conjunction with heart-healthy dietary patterns experience reductions in blood pressure, lower resting heart rates, improved lipid profiles, decreased systemic inflammation, better blood sugar control, and more stable arterial plaques. These cumulative effects significantly lower the risk of sudden cardiovascular events and contribute to long-term health and longevity. Psychological and behavioral aspects are also important. People who engage in regular exercise, prioritize sleep, and manage stress are more likely to make other healthy choices, such as eating nutrient-dense foods, avoiding excessive alcohol, and maintaining a healthy body weight. These behaviors reinforce each other, creating a lifestyle ecosystem that maximizes cardiovascular protection and overall well-being. The consistency of these lifestyle choices ensures that protective effects are not just temporary but persist over decades, maintaining heart and brain health throughout life. Lifestyle factors also interact synergistically with dietary choices. For example, omega-3 fats, polyphenol, fiber-rich foods, and healthy proteins work more effectively when the body is regularly moving, adequately rested, and free from chronic stress. Exercise improves nutrient uptake and metabolism. Sleep supports tissue repair and hormonal balance, and stress reduction enhances endothelial function. The combined effect of these lifestyle and dietary elements is far greater than the sum of individual interventions, highlighting the importance of an integrated approach to cardiovascular prevention. As people age, the benefits of lifestyle factors become even more critical. Aging naturally brings changes in arterial elasticity, endothelial function, blood pressure, and metabolic efficiency. Regular exercise, restorative sleep, and stress management slow these age-related changes, preserve vascular flexibility, maintain plaque stability, and support overall cardiac resilience. They help the cardiovascular system adapt to the natural stresses of aging, reducing the likelihood of acute events such as heart attacks and strokes, even in later decades of life. In summary, lifestyle factors such as consistent exercise, sufficient sleep, and effective stress management create a protective foundation for cardiovascular health that complements and amplifies dietary strategies. They reduce blood pressure, stabilize blood sugar, improve lipid profiles, enhance endothelial function, lower inflammation, and support plaque stability, all while fostering behaviors that reinforce healthy choices. Over time, the cumulative effect of these lifestyle practices dramatically reduces the risk of heart attacks and strokes, strengthens the heart, maintains arterial integrity, and creates a resilient internal environment in which nutrients, hydration, and other preventive measures can fully support long-term cardiovascular health.